All right, witches, let's talk about herbs. So today we are going to do a bit of a little tour through my apothecary, what herbs I have, and some tips about building a herbal apothecary. So first things first, I'm going to use the word herbs here. I know that not all of these are technically herbs. It's just, to me, it just seems a bit easier to say than botanicals. And I just feel like most people use herbs more than the word botanicals. So it is what it is. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the herbs that I have the most of and why I have the most of them, pretty much. So the herbs that I have the most of, like this. So I've got lavender, I've got rose, I've got chamomile, and I've got jasmine. They are all in these repurposed pasta sauce jars. And the reason that I have them like this is because these actually live with my teas, because all of these I purchased as teas. They're all food grade. I can use them in food, completely safe. I think they were all organic as well. I can't quite remember, but these are food safe. So that means that I can use them in both witchcraft and also in other ways, so like using them in tea, in food, which are all part of witchcraft, by the way. So I have lavender. Lavender is fantastic for calming, fantastic for protection. Those are the two ways that I mostly use it. I use it in tea, I use it in all sorts of things, charm bags, sprinkle it around my altar, the list is endless. I also have lavender in a smaller bag, which I use more so for spell work, just because this I can use in edible things, whereas say the lavender I have in a little bag, which I got from a witchcraft supply shop, I don't know that it's food safe. So that's something else to know, whether your herbs are food safe or not. So if you've collected them yourself and you know that they're a variety that's safe, then that's great, you can use them. If not, that's why, as I said, I buy these as teas. So there are quite a lot of different tea shops that you can purchase from. I got these particularly nice ones from a shop called Tea Centre. Look, it's not super cheap, but when you're buying them in bulk like this, it's quite affordable. It just depends how much you need and what you're going to use it for. So likewise with the lavender, I use that in tea. I use rose petals a lot in tea. I also infuse them in honey. Rose petals, of course, are great for love. They're great for self-love, all sorts of things. But those are the main reasons that I use lavender. They're also quite calming as well, but those are the main reasons that I use lavender and the things that I use it for. Then there is chamomile. Now, chamomile I drink as a tea on a near daily basis. It's got a whole lot of medicinal benefits as well, which I'm not going to talk about. But for magical purposes, it's extremely calming. It's really relaxing, really soothing. And so I like using it. I can use it in charm bags. I could sprinkle it around candles. It really just depends on what kind of work I'm doing. And then I have jasmine. I tend to use lavender, rose, jasmine kind of all together. They're my three favorite herbs, which is why I have so much of them. So jasmine and rose, there's something very feminine about that with me, and so I'll use them if I'm doing work to do with like the divine feminine or like with goddess energy. So they're both quite similar. You can use them in love workings, you can use them in like calming, you can use them for working with goddesses. I forgot, with lavender you can also use it for like psychic work. But so those are my four main herbs. Honestly, the list goes on with what you can use them for, but I use those four herbs more than any other thing in my witchcraft practice. So that's why I have so much of them. Along that line is also rosemary. I have rosemary in different things because I've got it at different times. So this was all of the rosemary that I got from like witchcraft subscription boxes. This is more like chopped up finer. This I got with a whole bunch of other herbs specifically for cooking, but I really liked the jars that these are in, and so I have plans to repurpose them when they're all run out and they're more kind of witchy things then. But so rosemary is really good. You can use it for protection, exorcism, purification. So yeah, the other thing I suggest if you are starting a herbal apothecary is to put your labels on and make sure they have the correspondences. This is extremely helpful. Just like when I'm like, oh, I can't remember what I used jasmine for off the top of my head. That's because I have jasmine elsewhere, which has all of the correspondences, and so I'm able to look that up. Also, if you are beginning to work with herbs, you need this book. It's not even a suggestion. I put off buying this book for so many years because I was like, oh, it's expensive. Will I actually need it? Yes, get this book. It has all of the correspondences for magic. It has things like elemental associations, planetary associations. This book is a staple in every witch's bookshelf for good reason. Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Get it if you don't already have it. All right, what other herbs do I have here? These are more my food grade herbs. So bay leaves, I get these from the supermarket. You can buy them in bulk, you can buy them in smaller bags. This one bag, I think it's like $1 something from the supermarket, so I tend to just buy it from the supermarket because I don't use bay leaves that often. So I also use these in cooking, so that's generally how I go through them. I really like little packets like this if you can find these in your supermarkets. So this is whole cloves, and they have like a little Ziploc bit at the top. This is cassia sticks, also known as cinnamon quills. Often, even if they say cinnamon quills, they'll actually be cassia sticks. So if you can get somewhere that's transparent and honest and telling you that they're cassia sticks, that's good. Most cinnamon that you buy is cassia. I'm not going to go into the differences between the both of them. You can use both of them for the same kind of thing in magic. People might say otherwise, but really, what you use cinnamon for, you can use this for. So I have those. To be honest, I think I bought both of these because I was making spiced mead, but you can use both of them in witchcraft. These are really good for protection work. You can like stick them into oranges. I think it's a really common Yule decoration. I grew up where you would put these in like a Greek dish called pastitzel. So yeah, they're often used in protection, and you can use them in cooking too. Cassia sticks or cinnamon quills are really good. You can add a bit of them into like charm bags. You can use them for like stirring things, so you might want to mix up an incense blend and add a bit more of that like prosperity or fiery energy or luck or all sorts of things with a cassia stick. I also love using them in tea. It's a really nice way to add magic into your tea. Clearly I love tea magic. I have to do a video on tea magic, but you can use these to stir around your tea, which is really, really nice. You know how much I love my whole black peppercorns. I talked about this in my beginner witch supplies video. Yeah, these are really handy. This was from the supermarket. It wasn't that expensive. So this was $6. If you don't want to get it in this little container, you can get them in a bag for about $5. I think shops like Aldi might sell them in bigger bags for cheaper. It just depends. But whole black peppercorns are really handy to have. And of course you can use them in cooking. There's so many different properties for pepper as well, but I talked already about this in another video. And in the same vein, we have salt. So I buy salt in these big bags. I get the rock sea salt. This brand is from Aldi, so it's like 1 kilo. I don't remember exactly how much it is. But I just remember it's a lot cheaper than other places. So if you can buy like rock sea salt in bulk, that's great. I know they also do Himalayan pink salt. I choose not to use it because of ethical reasons. I talked about that in my beginner witch supplies video, but some good quality rock sea salt, you can use it in cooking, you can use it in your magic. Yeah, super versatile. I always have some of this on hand. Usually more than one bag. And similar to salt that you may not have considered, I think this is something you can only get in Australia, I'm not entirely sure, but saltbush. So saltbush is a plant that grows wild by the sea and along rivers. And basically you can actually use this in cooking. So a lot of kind of higher end restaurants, they have started adding in saltbush into things, but you can use this in your witchcraft in a similar way as salt. So it's really good for purification. So this was actually gifted to me by a coven sister who collected it along the Murray River, which is really special to me because I have such fond memories growing up and visiting the Murray River. So yeah. Saltbush is another really good thing to use in your magic if you have access to it. And just like with the saltbush, rosemary is another thing that if you don't grow it yourself, you can often find it. So yeah, you can find it in all sorts of places, in like parks, out the front of like public buildings like libraries, schools, all sorts of things. So Yeah, wild harvesting some of your herbs is something that you can do as well, particularly if you're not planning on using them in food. Just because if you harvest something off the side of the road, you don't know if it's had pesticides used on it, you don't know if it's been watered with water that's not meant for human consumption, like things like that. So it's something to keep in mind. Something else that I purchased purely for aesthetic reasons, because I like the way these look. I had lofty ambitions of putting a lot of my little herb bags into these glass jars. So what I did was I bought this off of Catch. I think it was Catch. I think there's a few other different websites that sell it, but basically it's this little wooden stand and inside is glass jars with herbs in them. There's a whole bunch of different herbs, but my goal was just to kind of reuse the glass jars and put my smaller quantities of herbs in there so they're all kind of the same size and they all look really pretty. It's got a stand so it kind of stands up on its own, and this lives in my kitchen because I use it in cooking. But this was really cheap. It was only maybe $30, I think, and I've seen similar things like that as well in places like Target. Herbs that I've got from witchcraft supply stores. So I have a couple of jars of herbs from Juniper Moon Apothecary. I really like the little jars they come in. I like the way they've got the properties on there. So this is an advantage if you buy from, say, a witchcraft supply store, is they'll often have the really nice labels on them already. You don't need to do anything. You just kind of display them on your shelf. So that's something which might be helpful. And then I've got another one which I got from Earthly Alchemy, which is basil. And so these jars can be really helpful, but I also find that sometimes they're just like a little bit too much. Like I just can't use it all before the herbs lose their color or lose their scent or lose their energy. And so I also do have quite a lot of herbs which I have in smaller quantities, which I have in little bags. So for example, this is from Juniper Moon Apothecary. This is a perfect size because I feel like I'll be able to use all this up before it's sort of gone a bit stale, gone a bit off, lost its color, lost its scent, lost its energy. So it's actually okay to buy herbs in little bags as well. I've got plenty. I'll show you where I keep them. I've got this big box that's just full of herbs, and it's like packed to the brim full of herbs. So these are all of the herbs that I have gotten in like various subscription boxes and as gifts, things like that. So like I've got my herbs from Juniper Moon Apothecary. I've got some herbs I got from the Muses of Mystery in their mystery boxes. I've got herbs from like the Witch's Roots, the Witch's Moon, and I've added my own correspondences on there just so that I know what they're useful for, because otherwise they tend to just sit there and I'm like, well, what do I use this for? What's it good for? I don't know. And taking that extra time to look it up, like it's just, if you want to do a working for say like protection, you're just going to grab all of the stuff for protection. You're not going to go, oh, I don't know if peppermint is good for protection. Let me go look that up in my book and do that for all of your herbs. It's going to take you forever. So it's really helpful if you just have them there like, oh, this is good for protection. I'll go use that for this. Like, yeah, it just helps when you're trying to kind of intuitively create things. So I've got all sorts of stuff here. So I forgot to say before, with my Juniper Moon thing, so I've got some purple cornflower and some rose petals. So I've got lots of rose petals. These ones are the ones I use in magic just because I'm not sure that they're safe in tea. This purple cornflower I use a lot in decorations for candles and things. It's really pretty. I can also sprinkle it about in photos. Likewise for the rose petals. The basil, I'll be honest, I use basil a lot in cooking. I don't use it a lot in my magic. So that's why this is really full. I need to use it more clearly. So I have things like olive leaf, which I got from the Witch's Roots. I use this quite a lot actually. This used to be completely full, so I have used quite a bit of this. Purple sage, which I've run out of because I use so much of it. I have a little bit of white sage left. I'm not going to be purchasing white sage just for ethical reasons. And quite honestly, I actually prefer the other varieties of sage. I would prefer to work with, say, purple sage. So that's something I've tried growing. It died. I need to try again because I'd really like to have some purple sage that I can use. So yeah, it's really nice if you can grow your own plants, but I also understand that not everyone is in a position to, or people like me are just not very good at keeping plants alive. So I really thoroughly appreciate these witchcraft supply stores that do sell these more exotic herbs. I've got things like peppermint, I've got more lavender, I've got blue mallow, so these are really good as like decorations in candles and things. Peppermint, again, I actually use it quite a lot in tea. Not so much in my magic, which is why this bag is quite full. Mullein, which I don't use very much either. Usually all these herbs I don't use very much. I do try and use them up in like charm bags, or I might sprinkle them on my altar as like decoration. But yeah, this is the trouble that I have with some herbs that they're not my go-to herbs, that I just don't actually use them before they go bad, and then I have to chuck them out. So I do feel bad about that, and I do try and use them up more in like charm bags and things like that then. So I've got some yarrow, which I need to use, which I think I'll be able to use because it's got like properties which like it's really versatile, like strength, power, love, healing, protection, courage, divination, calming, exorcism. Like, it's super versatile, so I should use my yarrow more. I've got patchouli. This is also a really versatile one. This is really earthy. I tend to use this more in charm bags rather than decoration because, let's face it, it's a brown leaf. It's not a very pretty herb, but it has a very strong scent. You either love it or you hate it. More chamomile. Mugwort. This is the only mugwort I have because, to be honest, I use mugwort a lot. And it's something that I don't grow myself, so I only get it kind of in small quantities. Next time when I run out, I'm probably just going to buy a bigger quantity of it. Mugwort is one that I really like the properties of, so it's really good for witchcraft, for protection, for divination, for dream work, for astral projection, things like that. So this is more like what I really like doing magic on. And so I've used most of my mugwort, and this is all that I have left. And I didn't get this very long ago. Wattle. Wattle is such a pretty one. I have more on my altar, which I actually wild harvested back when the wattle flowers were blooming. So I've got some more wattle that looks like this. I've got some wattle which is a bit different. It's got like bigger like globes. But yeah, there's actually so many different varieties of wattle, which is actually a form of acacia. So this is really pretty. This is really good for when you're doing like workings to do with springtime and summer, and like, you know, it's a lot of the correspondences with the color yellow work with wattle as well. So it's a lot of like joyfulness, things like that, really like sun energy. I have some blackberry twigs. I think you can use these in divination, but I haven't really done that. They also have thorns on them, so that's something else that can be good for magic, like protection work, things like that. But I just haven't got around to using them yet. I've got Oh, it's patchouli. I've got a little bit of patchouli that I just sprayed everywhere over my carpet, so apparently I'm going to be using it as a carpet scent freshener thing. It's all over my carpets now. So I've got eucalyptus. Eucalyptus you can find pretty much everywhere in Australia. You don't need to buy it. Just when you are wild harvesting herbs, just be sure to do it really mindfully and thanking the plant that you're actually harvesting it from, and just like really like giving something back to like the spirits of the area, to the nature spirits. So you might choose to then like say water a plant, or you might gift some of your hair. There's all sorts of different offerings you can give when you are wild harvesting. But yeah, eucalyptus is something which I've wild harvested before. I've got some more chamomile. I clearly need to use it because I've got, 3 bags of chamomile now. This is what happens when you go through your herb supplies. You find out you've got duplicates of all of this stuff. Oh, I do have mugwort. Oh, okay. This is what happens. Go through your herb supplies, find all your duplicates that you thought you were running low on, and you're going to go buy more, and then whoops, I've got plenty of mugwort. Take stock of your herbs. See, I've got more info sachets, information things. I've got some for French lavender. I've got some for moss, cinnamon, rose of Jericho. So that's something which is really good about like the witchcraft boxes is like particularly with Muses of Mystery. I've got so many of these cards which help because now I've got like nice labels for my things. This is some tree bark with moss on it, which I wild harvested really mindfully and gave back. Poppy seeds. Look, poppy seeds you can actually buy in the supermarket as well, so this was a bit of a strange thing to give, but yeah, so it says offerings to the dead, fertility, abundance, love, sleep, money, luck, invisibility. Okay. Got some chrysanthemum. So yeah, this is also got lots of good things. I use this a lot in cleaning and cleansing and for protection, things like that. St. John's wort, which is another really good one. Yeah, so vitality, health, joy, protection, strength. Meadowsweet, which is love, attraction, calming the heart chakra, harmony. Then it also says pregnant women and asthmatics should avoid ingesting meadowsweet. So it's actually something good to have. Like I think mugwort also has, yeah, it says do not ingest on there. But particularly if there's like herbs, which should be avoided when you're pregnant, that's really good to have on there, because like, you know, it happens sometimes, and then, you know, you don't want to harm yourself by accidentally using something that you didn't know was actually harmful. So we've got vervain, Solomon's seal, sunflower petals, which I collected last year from my sunflower, which I grew. So that's really special to me. Honeysuckle, Spanish heath, which is really good for working with Fae energy. I'm like saving this because I love it so much. It also says using spells of new beginning, self-discovery, beauty, peace, summoning spirits and fairies to your garden. Nearly there. I've got fern, bracken fern. See, like looking at this, I actually wouldn't use a lot of this because like it's gone brown. So like I would probably only use the green ones. I wouldn't use the brown ones. To me, those brown ones look like they've lost their energy. Yeah, and they're even going black on the end. So I personally wouldn't use this in magic. So yeah, it really pays to keep an eye on your herb supplies just to make sure that you're using things before they can't be used anymore. Like now I have to throw out some of this. So yeah, keep an eye on your herb supplies. I have lemon myrtle, which yeah, it's good for purification. Orris root powder, which is just good to kind of like just boost your spell workings, I think. It also says love, protection, divination. I've got some dandelion. Dandelion's another thing that's so easy to wild harvest. This has got bits of dandelion root in it. You can also buy dandelion root tea in supermarkets. So this one is good for divination, wishes, calling spirits, and psychic ability. Jasmine flowers, I've got a little bit more. Actually gonna leave that out. I'm gonna put them on my altar. Use up the last of that because they've been there for a while. Echinacea, add to any spell or charm bag to increase its strength and effectiveness. So like this is why it's really helpful to have little labels and things like this on your thing. So actually when you're going through and you're like, oh, this is echinacea, what on earth do I use it for? I don't know. That way you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, I know something I can use this for right now. I've got some gumby. I've got some cedar. This is something as well that's super easy to wild harvest. I think half of it is stuff that I've wild harvested, half was like came in the bag. I've got some wormwood. I've got a rose of Jericho, which I should do something with. Yeah, might use you today. See, the things you forget about in here. I've got not so much a herb, but I've got a spider. And I've got some patchouli covered paper bark. This again was something that I wild harvested. When I take things off of trees though, I usually try and get things that have naturally fallen. Like I wouldn't peel paper bark off of a tree. I take a piece that's already fallen. That way, I don't know, I just feel better about taking things from the tree. Having said that, the tree bark I did take off the tree, but I did that really respectfully. You know, if you haven't done it before, you stand there, you have your hands there, and you kind of close your eyes, you really tune into the energy, and you ask, like, you'll say, like, oh, I would really like to take a piece of your bark with me. I'm from this area, do you mind? And then if you get some kind of signal back saying yes or no, basically, like, to me, like, you'll know what a yes is, like, you'll feel good, you'll feel happy. Yeah, whereas like a no, like you might just feel like, oh no, this doesn't feel right. Like just, yeah, you've got to kind of tune into yourself and trust your intuition and what your body is telling you to know if it's okay. So yeah, that's something to do. But you can also just collect things off the ground. So that's what I did with this one. But even then I would still give an offering. So this I can already see has a piece of my hair attached to it. I give my hair a lot as offerings. Because to me my hair has part of my energy and part of my power in there, so it's sort of like giving that energy and that protective energy to that place or to that tree. So that's something else to do. All right, I've rambled on. Oops, no, got 2 more. Okay. All right, I've got 2 more left. I'm nearly done. So last, I've got some licorice root, which was gifted to me by a friend. I've written the correspondences underneath, which I got from Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. And then I also have, this is a blend, but you can still count this as herbs. So this one has Palo Santo, Alazuma, Coca, and Muna. Yeah, so it's shamanic herbs and things like that in there. I forgot to mention that I also grow a lot of my own herbs like basil and mint and lemon balm and various other flowers. So that is my giant herb collection. Clearly you can see which ones I use a lot of and which ones I need to kind of use more of because I forgot that I had them or I don't really know what to use them for. So when you are starting your own herb collection, I would really just suggest don't buy everything, because if you buy everything it's going to go bad, particularly if you buy big jars of everything. Like, I'm glad I don't have a big jar of, say, peppermint. Find the herbs, like get smaller quantities, find out what herbs you really like working with, and then buy more of those. You don't need to have a giant collection of literally everything. A lot of herbs are super versatile. It doesn't matter if you don't have, you know, a herb that someone has mentioned in a specific recipe or a specific spell. You can substitute. You can use something else that has a similar property, and that's completely fine. So yeah, don't feel like you need to have a big herb collection. And I'm looking at this now going, oh my gosh, I need to downsize my herb collection. I have way too many things. So yeah, learn from my mistakes, try and avoid making your own mistakes. And yeah, so check out supermarkets. I've got a video on budget witch tips as well, which I will link. But yeah, don't spend a lot of money on herbs, particularly if you don't know what to use them for. You don't need to have a giant apothecary of all of the things. So that's completely fine. Anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed watching this really long rambly video, and I hope you have a wonderful magical day. See you next time. Bye.